Hey everybody, it's Chris Load here. In this screencast, I'm going to show you how we can animate the moon phases using Keynote on our iPad. Most people think that Keynote is only a presentation tool for creating slideshows, but actually it can be a pretty effective tool to use when animating different cycles or processes. So we're going to animate the phases of the moon. Here we go. I'm going to use Keynote in order to create this animation on my iPad. Here's the icon for Keynote, and I'm going to tap on that to start it up. When Keynote opens up on your screen, up at the very top, you want to tap on the plus sign to create a new file. Then I will select the Choose a Theme option. And in here, I'm going to select Basic White. When my slide opens, I want to get rid of these text boxes, so all I have to do is tap on the screen, on the text box, and a contextual menu pops up, and then I tap Delete. And I'll do that for the other text boxes. First thing I want to do is I want to get a picture of the Earth. And we could draw it on here, but I'm going to just simply go get a photo of the Earth. And I've already preloaded the photo of the Earth into my photo album. So I'm going to go up here to the Photos option. On the older iOS, it might be the plus sign that you have to select to go get a photo. So I'm going to click Photo or Video, and there's the Earth there. So I'm going to throw that in. My Earth's a little bit large, so I want to make it a tiny bit smaller to give me a little more space for what I'm going to do. And I want to put this Earth right in the center of my slide. Now, of course, the next thing I want to do is I want to add a moon. So I'm going to actually draw the moon. I'm going to go up to my Shapes tool. Again, older iOS, you might need to select the plus sign. And I'm just going to add a circle. I'm going to make it fairly large right now, but I'm going to make it smaller in a minute. We want to change the color, so I've selected the shape. I click on my paintbrush and then Style and Fill, and I'm going to make it a sort of a light gray color. Now I want to add some craters to this as well, so I'm going to go back up to my shapes, add a circle, make it a little bit smaller because of course the craters are a little bit smaller on the moon. And they're not black, we want to make them sort of a gray color. I don't know, do I go darker gray or lighter gray? I'm going to go lighter with that. You can go darker gray, doesn't matter. And I want to maybe add a couple more here. And now one quick trick I can do is I can select that shape and I can copy it and then tap Paste. And so I get multiple craters here. I probably want to change the size of them so they're not all the same. So let's make that one a bit smaller. They don't have to be perfectly round either. There we go. So I'm going to have, I want to have three, I'm going to put 3 craters on here. And I want them a little bit closer to one side of my moon. And there's a reason for that. So now I want to make my moon smaller. But before I do that, I want to group all of these objects. So in order to group all of the objects, I have to hold one and then I tap all of my other objects. And I don't think it's in here. Oh, it is group. So group is in the contextual menu. So I tapped on that arrow and now I can select group. So now I have selected all or put all of my crater and moon into one shape. Again, to do that, just as a, in case you didn't get that part, in order to multi-select, you tap on one object. In this case, I tapped on one crater and I kept my finger on it, and then I tapped all of the other objects while holding that first crater. Now I want to make my moon a little bit smaller because of course our moon is smaller than the Earth, maybe about that size there. And I'm going to just slide it over here just for now. Next thing I want to do, I want to add the path that the moon is going to follow. So the path is going to be a circle. So I'm going to add a large circle. And this one's going to be really big. I want to keep it a perfect circle. And I want to center this shape exactly in the center, which is of course going to match where my Earth is. So there's my path. Now of course my path, I don't want to have that filled in, so I'm going to go to the fill option and select no fill. Let's get rid of the fill feature here. And I'm going to add the border. And I want to see the border. I want to see my path. So I'm going to bring that up to about a 4-point line. And then select style and let's go dotted line. So there's the path around which my moon is going to follow. Now I want to put my moon on that. And then I want to animate my moon. So if I click on my moon, and then I select the arrow over here in the contextual menu, you see animate is one of the options. I'm going to click animate. Animation on Keynote allows us to, there's 3 different ways we can animate. We can have things appear, which is called build in. We can have things disappear off of the slide, which is build out, and then just simply an action while the object is on the screen. That's the one we want to choose. And when we click add action, we have lots of options here. I'm going to just simply use create a path. On the MacBook, one of the features of Keynote on the MacBook is that you can align the animation to the outer edge of a shape, but unfortunately on an iPad this isn't possible, so that's why we're doing this create a path, which works pretty much the same. So I'm going to drag my moon around the path of the orbit. So I'm going to drag it along the dotted line, and I'm going to see if I can stick to that dotted line. Now I'm going to purposely go way inside because kids aren't going to be able to do this perfectly. And I want to show you how we can change that. So now that's pretty good. So the moon does rotate counterclockwise around our Earth, and that's not bad. I'm somewhat happy with it. It's not perfect, but I can adjust that. So to adjust it, I'm going to click done down here. And if I use I'm using my cursor, but I can also tap with my finger, you'll see some little handles appear on that path. And I can move those. I can actually, with my finger, I can move those handles and adjust my path. So I want to adjust that path to make it a little more in line with the orbit, the dotted line path. There we go. So that's pretty good. I like that. That's pretty close. There's my adjusted path. You'll also be able to change some of the settings of the animation by clicking on this thumbnail down here. When I click on that, I get some options for the duration. I'm going to leave the duration for now. I'm going to change it to 10 in a minute, but I'm going to look at a couple of the other settings. This setting here, align to path. Now, if you'll notice when we animate, you'll see that the crater side always stays on the left-hand side. So the moon doesn't rotate or anything while it's rotating around. So this cratered side always stays to the left-hand side. But this is in fact not how the moon behaves. Our moon actually rotates as well itself, or rotates itself while it rotates around the Earth. So I'm going to select align to path on. What this will do is this will make the shape always kind of aligned to the path, and I equate this to like driving a car. So this is the front of the car, and as the car drives around this path, the front always stays to the front edge of where it's moving. So in this case, the craters will always be facing the Earth. So when I check out my path now, you'll see how the craters are always facing the Earth. So really, the moon is now rotating, or we're making it look like the moon is rotating around, or rotating itself while it rotates around the Earth. The acceleration, I'm going to take that off. It's the Earth doesn't, or the moon doesn't, speed up and slow down. So we're going to take that off to make it a little more realistic. And so that is the last one that we're going to do right now. I want to change the duration up to 10 seconds. So now if I click on my preview button, this is what my moon is going to look like as it rotates around the Earth. And we're done. I like that, so I'm going to click done. The next thing I want to add is the sun, because the sun does play a large role in the moon phases, because it allows us to see the moon during its different phases. So I'm going to add a large circle. There we go. I'm going to change the color right away to yellow. And then I'm going to move it over here, and I can move things off of the screen, so I can use my fingers and pinch zoom the slide so it's smaller, and then I can make this sun much larger off the edge of the screen, and I can just put it right there. And then I pinch zoom back. So now I think that's pretty symbolic of what we typically know as the sun. One thing just to note that, of course, the distances that we are playing with here, or we are demonstrating in this slide, are not representative of the relative distances in our solar system. So maybe let the kids know that. So now that we have our sun in place, now we can put in the different phases of the moon. I'm going to simply add text boxes to indicate the different phases of the moon. The text boxes are actually added by clicking on the Shapes feature, and then in the basic shapes, we have text. And the text box will get added down there. I'm going to put it right here, and we'll go with full moon. There we go. I'm going to add all of the other labels for the 8 different phases of the moon, and we can do that quickly, and we'll be back in just a sec. There we are. We have all of our phases of the moon labeled, and now I want to illustrate those. And to illustrate those, I'm going to take my moon here, and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm just going to paste it here. So here's my moon. First thing I need to do actually is I have to go and I take out the animation. So I want to get rid of this animation. So I go into my settings, and at the very bottom, I can hit delete. So now I've taken out the animation of that moon. A very easy way that we can illustrate the different phases of the moon is I'm going to add another circle, and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to put it right on top of my this moon. And in fact, I just want to see the size. This is 320 point circle, so I'm going to drag this to be 320 points, same size, because I want to make that match I want this to match exactly the shape that I have here. One thing to note here is that I'm starting with the full moon. I think typically the cycle starts with the new moon, and that's why we have the first quarter here and the full moon, and then the last quarter up here. So just to point out that for the sake of this animation, I'm starting at the full moon phase, but typically the phase naturally starts with the new moon. But for illustration purposes, we're going to go with the full moon as the start. All right, I'm going to take my circle, this circle that I've moved, and I'm going to move it right over to the edge of this moon here. I'm going to make this circle white, so I'm going to go up to my Style tab, and I want to make it white, so I'm going to fill it with white. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to then just simply animate this circle and move it in this direction. So it's going to end up over here. And as it moves, it actually covers part of this shape, which will kind of illustrate the phases of the moon. So to add an animation, I will click on that shape. You'll see I have my contextual menu pop up. Click on my arrow, then on Animate. I'm going to click on Add an Action, and I'm just simply going to create another path. I just want to go straight across. And end there and stop. Now this isn't a perfect way to animate it, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to hit done. Now I want to change some of the settings, and the couple of settings that I want to change the duration, because the duration of our moon rotating around the Earth was 10 seconds. I want this animation to match that as well. The align to path, I don't need to change that, but I want to change the acceleration, and I don't want any acceleration with that as well. Down at the bottom, there's the start option. I can do that, but I want to show you another way to access the that part. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click done. So now when I play this animation, if I hit my play button up at the top, my moon rotates around the actual Earth, and then I have to tap my screen for that part of the animation to happen. And so there's the new moon, and now there's the waxing gibbous, crescent and gibbous. But we want those to happen at the same time. So in order to do that, I can click up here in the three dots, and then there's the animate feature. That will pull up any animations that I may have. And in this slide, up here at the very top, there's the hamburger stack. I click on that, and this will pull up my build order. And this is where we can change the timing of these animations. You'll see here that this is the plain white circle, that the timing of this is going to happen when I tap it, but down here I can have it combined with build one. So if I click on that, these two animations happen at exactly the same time, which is what I want. I can click preview, and you can see how the animation of the moon and the shape of the moon is happening all at the same time. You'll notice though at the end there I had my white circle covering some of these features, so I'm going to have to change the order of those. So I'm going to click done, and what I want to do is I want to move this circle and this moon to the very back. So I have to change the layering of these. So I'm going to click on this one, and I want to move this one to the as far back as possible. I want this to be the furthest thing in my layering. So I'm going to click on the formatting icon and then arrange. And you can see that it is actually closer to the front, so I want to move this as far back as possible. And each of these little tick marks actually represents each shape or text box that I have on my screen. So I want this one as far back as possible, and then I'm going to click on this object, click arrange, and you'll see that is right at the very front. Well, I want this one, I don't want it to be the last thing, I want it to be the second last thing, because this one is actually the moon that I have right here. So now when I click on my preview button, you'll see that this this white circle should not cover the waxing gibbous text box, and also did not cover that path. So that worked out. So there you have the animation of the moon phases, along with the what the moon looks like from Earth. We learned a lot there in what Keynote can do in terms of an animation tool, and so hopefully you can use this for other things that you might be doing in your class.